All right, y'all. Welcome back here. Welcome back here to another episode of the Easy Money Sports Podcast. Of course, me myself, as always, Sanders here. Got my
Yes,
boy
sir, man.
Dupree here with me.
Yes, sir. Back at it with another episode. How we living? How we living? How we living?
Man, living, bro. I can't complain. Man, just going through, another day, man. Another time as we, just moving along here. Man, a lot going on. Of course, we got college basketball and started up this week. It's been crazy. Men and women's, we've already seen the number one team
Tough.
go down.
It's
First
tough.
game. First game. You know what I'm saying, man? Tennessee lost a close one to Florida State today, bruh. So, I mean, it's a lot. With Michigan State and the men's side lost first game to
Yeah.
James Madison, bro. It's been wild already, bro. It's been wild there already. NBA going along. They got another installment of that stupid in
Coming up.
season tournament.
How about
Uh,
I
they
just got
got
the
that
update.
going
How about
on.
Giannis dropped 54 tonight? They end up
He
losing.
deserved it, bro.
They lost.
That's tough. But he deserved that after
What
getting
what did he
ejected
get?
the night before, really
I didn't
for
even
no
see it. What
reason.
did he get ejected for?
So what it was I don't know when he
Yeah.
got the first one, but he had a
Okay.
tech before, so I don't know where that came in. And he came down the lane, basically dunked
Hmm.
on Isaiah Stewart, stared him down. Russ called the tech on that. So that was two techs. And by
Yeah.
the rules, two
Hmm.
techs, you out of there. So it was just but it was kinda like I don't know. To me it wasn't disrespectful. It
I
was
mean,
more
he
so
stared
just
him down. I
kinda
mean, you dunked
like,
on him. He stared
he
him
was
down.
among the
Yeah.
basketball
That
emotions.
happens
Yeah,
all the
you know what I'm
time.
saying? It's just kinda like it was
Okay.
I don't know, man. Sometimes the referees just they make it about them, so that was that. So he deserved that because he didn't get a chance to play the full game, man. His that other game, but yeah, NBA going on. We in what week 10 in the NFL. And then we're down to the final 3 weeks here of the college football season. It's a lot going on and off the field in college football, which we'll get into, of course, man. But we ain't gonna waste our time much longer. We're gonna get right into this episode, man. We'll start off there in the NFL, and we're gonna kind of recap a little bit of the
Hmm.
week that was, and then going into someone making their grand return this week. So obviously, the story of the week last week, man, back in week 9 was quarterback Josh Dobbs, uh, who we mentioned beforehand. Started out beginning of the season in Cleveland, traded from Cleveland to Arizona while Kyler Murray was getting ready to
Hmm.
recover from his ACL injury. Been starting there, been playing a lot of games. Led them to their only win that they have on the season so far against the Dallas Cowboys. Been playing some really good football, and then come trade deadline, we know what happened with the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins tear his Achilles. They
Hmm.
needed a quarterback since they were right there in the thick of things in the playoff hunt. They decided to make a trade for Josh Dobbs. All right, we get into this past Sunday matchup against the Atlanta Falcons, and obviously he just got there, so he's listed as just quarterback number two. Ends up being rookie starting quarterback Jaren Hall. He only plays one series, gets concussed out of the game, and now enters Josh Dobbs, who probably doesn't know a quarter
Hmm.
of the playbook or any of it at all. Don't even know who he's really throwing the ball to because there's no Justin Jefferson out there. He just has T.J. Hawkinson. Ends up losing K.J. Osborne to a concussion, so it's just
Hmm.
Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, and then he just got his plethora of running backs. Right, the man goes out here, had to learn the
They
cadence on
literally
the
got yeah.
fly, everything. I mean, literally everything, right? And the man goes out here and goes 20 for 30 for 158 yards, throws for two touchdowns, runs for 66 yards, and another rushing touchdown that led that game winning comeback drive to give the Vikings that 31-28 win. it sucked obviously because being a Falcons fan, seeing that, but just the story and the incredible story for Josh Dobbs, man, as we all know, um, I think was a 2 or 3 year starter at Tennessee. Played a lot of games there back when they were, being coming back up on the come up with
Hmm.
Bush Jones and everything. Um, and I mean, put it into layman's terms, dude
No
was smart
doubt.
as hell, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I think he had like a 3.9, 4.0 GPA while he was in school. Um, Man, if he wanted to, he could really be a
Hmm.
rocket scientist right now,
That's
but do
it.
want to play
Yeah.
football. I mean, it's just, man, just talk. I guess just real quick, man, just talk about how like just how crazy that is for a guy to come out who just got to a team, 5 days, hadn't even been a week, come out there and just find a way to
No,
get it done.
it speaks to him as a player. You don't realize how hard that is what he did, how hard that is until you put it into context. I mean, it's hard. You go through they this is I mean college, NFL, whatever. You go through. In the spring they have rookie mini camp, OTAs. You go through the summer, then you have training camp, and then you get into preseason, then the season. So you're talking you have all that time. You have all that time. We talk about it all the time where football is unique, where you have nine, maybe 9 months to prepare for a 3 month season. In the league, maybe 8 months to prepare for a 4 month season in a calendar year. It's different. So you're talking about preparing your body mentally, all that type of stuff. So you're learning offense, learning the defense, learning the system throughout that whole time and getting down to different nuances of cadence and routes and protection and checks on defense, all that different stuff. And you have a new quarterback coming in who wasn't expected to play. He comes in and they are literally on the sideline when it's like, okay, Josh, you have to go in. The offensive line is literally standing around him while he's under center going over the cadence so the offensive line can get used to hearing his voice. That's what they were doing. They have to get used to hear it's a new voice under center. They've been listening to Kirk Cousins. He goes down. So now all week you've been listening to I can't remember the guy's name, the rookie. You said his name. Jaron Hall.
Jaron
They've been
Hall.
listening to him all week because Josh Dobbs obviously is I just got here. So they're on the sidelines, okay, we gotta hear you give the cadence, bro. Like we have to hear you. Like we don't know what you sound like. And to go out there and to execute and do what he did, man, it's almost nothing short of amazing. That's something that's tough. That once again that speaks to just kind of the natural football player in the field that he has. Because you like you said, you don't know who you're throwing to. You don't know those guys. He didn't know their names. Protections, just everything that goes into it. The offense, just in general. You're this is all new. 5 days in, it speaks to how smart he is. Obviously, smart guy. You're able to pick up stuff a little bit quicker. And I imagine that Kevin O'Connor had to keep things pretty simple for him. I mean, you can't go in and be this elaborate play caller when you got a guy who's been in your building for 5 days. So you got to try to keep it relatively simple for him. But to be able to go out and do that, unfortunately, to the expense of the Falcons, but to go out and do what he did is it's impressive. It's impressive, and I haven't really talked about it because I was been hot because obviously he was on the losing end of it, but it's impressive, man. That's tough. That's tough. And so I did like the move when the Vikings made it because they won a couple games and they started off the year slow, got on a little streak, won a couple games, beat the 49ers, and then Detroit kind of came back down to earth. So you make the move to go get Josh Dobbs. Do you think he's going to win your Super Bowl? No. But because now the division looks like it might still be up for grabs with Detroit kind of teetering a little bit. You make the move to go get Josh Dobbs because he at least gives you a shot. You believe that he will at least give you a shot to maybe win the division and make the playoffs. If that wasn't the case, if they were kind of 2-7, 3-6, when in that world, it's like okay, let's go with Hall. Let's see what we got with him, and then let's get ready for next year. So it was impressive. It was impressive, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, they did started off 1-4, now on a 4 game winning streak. Um, I think now they only look at themselves. I think it's 1.5 or half a game back, maybe out of first now with Detroit. So, and I'm not sure if they played them yet. So that's if they have, I can't remember. But if not, that's gonna be
Mm,
interesting when those two teams meet up now to see as the season goes along. But I mean, it's very impressive, man. You can't really be too. There's not too many other words or adjectives that you can put in there. It's just very impressive for him to do that, and it's just you know wondering, if obviously could he be like a franchise guy? Probably not, but the fact that now obviously he's been capable enough to where if you needed a game or two, he's definitely more than
mm,
capable enough to do that for sure. So, man, just got to give credit where credit is due, man. Big props out to Josh Dobbs to just in odd circumstances to find a way, man, to get it done. Very impressive. Um, Week 10 in the NFL, and that's currently going on right now. Thursday night football. It's the Panthers and the Bears. Um,
mm.
a little snooze fest, but it's 10-9. I'm pretty sure Bears fans don't care. It's a win-win for them. Um, if they
Yeah,
win, it kind of increases them getting that top draft pick. Even if they lose, they might still stay in the top three with that pick because of the fact that they have the Panthers pick for the Bryce Young trade that happened in this year's draft. So that's that going on with that. But man, another thing, somebody here is about to make I don't want to say long overdue, but a rather a grand appearance back to the football field, and that's Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. Man, towards ACL towards the end of the year last season. And he's had a interesting start to his career. You know what I'm saying, to say the least. Obviously started out at Texas A&M, transfers to Oklahoma, wins the Heisman, goes number one overall, and obviously how that worked out was to pair him up with Cliff Kingsbury. Um, and it kind of worked out okay the first few couple of seasons. But last season was kind of bad. And then obviously the year before that they make the playoffs, but probably the worst game as a professional we might have saw him play in was that playoff game against the Rams, where he just did not look. He didn't look comfortable at all. Um, had you wondering if the Cardinals could even see him long term, as the franchise guy for
hmm
their franchise at quarterback. Um, they give him the deal. He gets the money. It is what it is. But for some reason, we found out about some of the details and I guess you're gonna say incentives for the contract, and we hear about him needing to having a certain amount of hours of a film study and everything like that. So then it's like, whoa. Are you trying to say that this man doesn't watch film? Like,
yeah,
what's going on? And that just obviously that had everybody up in arms and going crazy because it's just like, one, how did this get announced and get leaked out? Two, why is this in the contract? That was kind of the main things for it. But having the season he had last year and then, turned his ACL, so I wasn't quite sure if he was gonna get back. We knew that they pretty much had an overhaul in their roster. For a second, it kind of looked like that maybe they were the ones that could be possibly heading towards his number one pick. Granted, they are kind of still in the running for it. I think them and the Panthers are the only teams with just one win. I don't think nobody else has one win, but besides those two franchises. So that's that, and it's just interesting to say the least that he makes his debut this season against a team that's defensively now is kind of struggling here as of late, and that's the Atlanta Falcons having to deal with two rookie quarterbacks and a quarterback who just
hmm
got there that we mentioned about Josh Dobbs for 5 days. But is there anything that you may be looking or interested about or looking forward to with Kyler Murray making his expected debut here this season?
Not not expecting too much. I mean, he's gonna he's gonna be a little rusty. Call it what it is. He's gonna be a little rusty. He hasn't played football in over a year. So he's gonna be rusty. I guess the thing would be, how rusty is he? How clean does he look? Is he and how quickly is he able to knock the rust off? I'm not sure. Um, practice reps are not the same as game reps. I do think that Kyler Murray is a good athlete. Um, and he has a good arm. Obviously, he's athletic coming off that ACL. Obviously, he's clear to play. How much trust does he have in that knee? And I've never had any injury as far as knees, meniscus, ACL, anything like that. But I always see guys, and the big thing is always trusting that you can make those same moves, those same cuts, just being able to be the same player, the same type of player that you were before you had that injury. And so seeing, does he trust his knee? Does he trust his knee to hold up? Is he wearing a brace? If he's wearing a brace, obviously that'll limit him a little bit. Is he not wearing a brace? So okay, yeah, he might not wear a brace, but how much, like I said, how much does he trust the mobility of that? Because a big part of Kyler Murray's game is being able to run around and create when things are going right, when the pocket collapses. So looking at all that, uh, he is going to face a defense in the Falcons that, like I said, has been struggling over the last couple of weeks, but throughout the season has been one of the top defenses in the league, the top 10 defense in the NFL. Um, they've gotten up after the pass a little bit. They've made things hard for quarterbacks, like I said, up until a little bit recently. So um, if this is if there's a game to kind of get back on track defensively, I would think this will be the one, because you'll be playing a quarterback. Granted, like I said, that is talented, but I think the Falcons are going to test him and test to see how much he really trusts his mobility. How does he feel? For lack of better, well, I'm kind of losing it right now, but just, does he trust that knee? Does he trust that it's going to hold up? He's able to go out there and play the brand of football that we are accustomed to seeing Kyler Murray play. Because the boy can run. I mean, if there's one thing we know that he can throw the ball. He has a cannon, all right, and he can run. I mean, he outruns a lot of people. He's one of the fastest players, period, in the NFL. So, what does he look like mobility wise? Those are the things um, that I'd be interested to see this Sunday.
Yeah, same for me. Nothing. I'm not too high, too low. I don't think he'll just go out there, necessarily pass for 400 yards and run for 100. I don't think he'll do that. It's just because obviously their roster is still their roster, so not really too concerned about that. But just obviously just want to see how he looks, because who knows? Maybe depending on where Arizona lands in the draft order, do they end up taking a chance of saying, you know what, maybe our time here with Kyler is done. We want to look for another quarterback for the future, a cheaper contract, and you know, see if anybody want to be in talks of wanting to make a trade,
Mm-hmm.
for Kyler and having them bringing them into their franchise and everything like that. So it's kind of more so, I don't want to say foreshadowing or going into the future of maybe that they're saying that, okay, hey, we're gonna trade them or anything like that. But I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think it's great to have him out there on the field. Obviously, he's one of the when healthy, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You can't deny his talents at all, or his athleticism, the kind of throws he can make, the way that he just keeps plays alive. Obviously, that play he had last season against, I want to say, I think it was the Raiders, where he just Looked like a little kid that you was trying to chase for like 20 seconds and they could never get him, and then he finally found a way to just run up into the end zone. So uh it's just amazing that some of the stuff that he can do for sure. So it's just gonna be interesting to see him finally out there, because he wasn't quite sure if they were gonna try to bring him back or not. For the season, just because of the injury and maybe how well or not well that he was feeling and how could it go along. But glad to see him out there. So, that he's gonna be out there for sure. I
No
hope they
doubt,
lose, but
no
glad to see
doubt,
him out
no doubt.
there.
It's good.
you know,
Glad he's coming back, but let's come back with a L. Come back with
yeah, yeah, for sure. But man, it's a lot of great games on tap. Really in the NFL, some interesting games to say the least. Um, Man, we'll go right into it. First game we got on tap here, we got AFC North showdown between the Browns and the Ravens. Fun fact right now, if the playoffs were to start right now, the whole AFC North would be in the playoffs. Which is crazy. They let you know like how well that division is from top to bottom. When you think about, especially when you think about how, like, with the Ravens, right? It's kind of like, oh, they were 6-2. They're 6-2, but it's just like, man, you had a week where like Lamar goes for over 200 and some yards, but doesn't even throw
it.
for a touchdown. So it's just kind of like, how, you know, uh, the Bengals are riding the ship now. They're kind of getting back on track. Uh, there was a time with Cleveland where we didn't know who was going to be the quarterback. Is Deshaun Watson going to play? Is it going to
Mm-hmm.
be PJ Walker? What's going on? And then obviously the Steelers can barely score any points, but they find a way to win a game. Like, that's just crazy. So it's just like the whole AFC North, it just has its own story in its own. But interesting, man. Browns Ravens. I want to say this is the first matchup, so got a long ways to go. But this is important to see who can kind of keep themselves ahead of everyone in this very tight AFC North race. Who you
This
got in this
is
one?
this is going to be a good game. You got two very good defenses, two teams that have been playing well over the last, or just in the season in general. I'm going to pick the Ravens because one, their deep. I mean, the Ravens defense. No one's really talking about it, but the Ravens defense is good. I mean, very, very good. And so is the Browns defense. But the Ravens defense right now is playing out of their mind. I think they gave what 6 points last week. I think they gave up 3 points, 6 points, something like that.
I
Like
think
30,
yeah, 3 or
37,
6 points.
37 to
It wasn't
three.
that much.
Like they are teams are not
Yeah,
scoring on this defense. And because of that, because I think that it will be a defensive struggle, Lamar Jackson, the offense has also been playing well. I think he's been playing well. So I'm gonna go with Lamar, quarterback for quarterback, offense for offense. I'm gonna go with Lamar in that offense. Or I think they create more big plays. I think they'll sustain more drives and get touchdowns, get points on the board. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens. Uh, I think this is like a 20-17, like 24-21. Like I don't see a lot of points. I don't see a lot of points scored in this game. This is going to be a defensive struggle, but I think Lamar makes more plays. I think he makes enough big plays to get the Ravens over the hump.
I can see that too. I can see it being the first of 20 or
Yeah,
21 wins. If whoever gets that, it may be just enough. Just because, I mean, you seen it. I mean, it seemed like every like high powered offense or nice offense that the Ravens are supposed to be going up against, and everybody's worrying if they can keep up and everything. They shut them down. I mean,
yeah.
Detroit shut them down. Now Seattle, that was a solid offense,
Top
shut them
offense in the
down. So
league.
um, Cleveland, yeah, Cleveland has a another decent offense here. That's that that can put up some points and everything like that. So that's that. But then obviously their defense is no slouch, and then there's times where the Ravens offense can sputter a bit. So yeah, this has the makings of being for sure one of those tough, hard nosed, defensive
Hmm.
struggles. I wouldn't even be shocked if it end up being, 16-13. This may be a Justin Tucker game or something like that. But the fact with it being at home, I'm going to lean on the Ravens coming out on top. I think that home field advantage uh, will help them out for sure, and I think that defense will make a couple more plays to give them that slight edge over Cleveland. All right, then the next game we got on tap here, we got the San Francisco 49ers going out to Jacksonville to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. If I'm not mistaken, I think both teams are coming off of a bye. So
I believe so. Yeah.
both
Hmm.
teams real rested. Yeah, both teams were rested, getting everything together as they get ready to reset here for the second half of the season. Um, Obviously, we know the 49ers coming in and making that big trade for Chase Young, bringing him from Washington to uh to San Francisco, and then Jacksonville pretty much still trying to hold firm in the AFC South, and also to stay right up there with the more, I guess you can say, as far as record wise, elite teams in the AFC, as they kind of jockeying for position to see who can be that top seed. Who you got in this one?
Picking the 49ers. Picking the 49ers. I think that they'll get back on track. I think that defense will get back. I think they'll wake back up. Obviously, interested to see what happens as Trent Williams playing. Does Debo play? You got to deal with those things. You will hope, if not both, maybe one of those guys get back, and they're healthy. But I think their defense, the 49ers defense, we all know is a very, very elite defense, and they've struggled over the last couple weeks. I think the bye week helps them. I think getting Chase Young in there helps them, allowing him to learn the system and and get his feet wet as far as rotation wise and everything with that defensive line. I think he's going to do nothing but help the 49ers up front. And I think that they get after Trevor Lawrence a little bit. I can see this obviously being a little more high scoring. I think there could be some points scored in this one. Um, but I'm gonna go with the 49ers. I think that defense rights the ship, and I think they create some turnovers, create some big plays, and get the job done. I mean, they're gonna have to if Debo and or Trent Williams do not play, we've seen that 49ers offense struggle. I mean, they've struggled before the bye week if those two guys aren't playing. So they're going to have to, which I'm not saying they haven't, but over those last couple, I mean, the Vikings threw the ball all over them. The Bengals did the same thing. They've been trending in the wrong direction. So if those two guys on offense aren't playing, that they're going to need some help. They're going to have to help Brock Purdy out with some favorable field position, a turnover here or there, or even a defensive score, something to kind of get the mojo going. And I think they do that. So I'm going to go with the 49ers.
Yeah, it was. This is kind of tough. I really wasn't quite sure which way to really go with it. But I'm gonna take the 49ers too. I think they found a way to get back on track. Um I think plays will be made on both sides here and there, but I do like the 49ers defense a little bit more than the
Mm-hmm.
Jaguars defense. Um it will be a plus if Debo can play. If Debo can play, for sure. For sure that's gonna make the 49ers offense be a whole lot better, because obviously we've seen how it's been without him
Mm-hmm.
being in the lineup. Um, it's just no knock to anybody else is on that offensive side of the ball, but obviously he makes the offense go when Debo is out there. It's just because of so many the different elements that he can give you and everything like that. So if he's out there and able to play, then I'm gonna roll with
Yep,
the 49ers. Um, and
they
they
do.
really need it. I mean, they've been on this losing streak. It hasn't looked too good for them. It seems like maybe people can think that, all right, we found the blueprint. This is how you stop Brock Purdy and everything like that. But mm, I think they find a way to get back on track and they'll handle business for sure and find a way to get a road win
Hmm.
out there in
If they're gonna
Jacksonville.
keep pace with the Eagles, they need it.
They need it, yeah, they really do. Then the last game here on tap, um, we talked about Josh Dobbs already before, so now obviously we know he's more than likely starting this week
Hmm.
for sure. Um, but now instead of being on the road, going up to
Hmm.
Minnesota at home, going up against the New Orleans Saints. Man, who you got in
I'm
this
gonna go
one?
with the Vikings solely because the Falcons need the Saints to lose. Um, but this is I'm picking the Vikings. I think that this is gonna be another test for Josh Dobbs. I think that Saints defense, they're not as good as everybody were. In my opinion, they're not as good as everybody was making them out to be before the season. But they are a good defense. They do have players. I mean, you got Cam Jordan, you got Demario Davis, you have Marshawn Lattimore. Lady, you have some pieces on that defense that make it it's tough. It makes it tough. Being at home definitely helps. Um, so I mean the defense is going to have to make some plays. The Vikings defense is going to have to make some plays. They're going to have to um, get off the field on third downs, create some turnovers just to help out. I think that obviously not having KJ Osborne with the concussion, that's going to hurt. So you're going to high end Jordan Addison, you're going to high end TJ Hawkinson, Matson, those running backs. Um, You would love to get Justin Jefferson back, but obviously that's not going to happen. He won't be playing this Sunday either. But I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think the Vikings at home. I think they get it done. Obviously, Dobbs is going to have a warm reception in Minneapolis on Sunday. That crowd is going to be behind them, and they're going to be hyped. But that defense is going to have to make some plays because you're still talking about a guy who now has been in the building for a week and a half. so granted he got it done in less than a week in 5 days, but still it still is a tough task. Still actually a lot. Um, but he's shown that he's capable of doing it. And I think that defense helped make some plays. I'm gonna go with the Vikings to win at home. If this is in New Orleans, I'm probably picking New Orleans because that's a tough place to play. But I'm gonna go with Minnesota at home. I'll say this too, man. I don't know if we haven't talked about it. I think the Vikings are feeling they're missing big playability not having Dalvin Cook. I think not having Dalvin Cook in that running back room at that running back spot is hurting them right now. I don't, how many big plays have the Vikings had out of that running back room? Just I'm not even talking about out of the backfield catching the ball. I'm just talking about running the football. Like Matson has not done. I mean, Matson is starting, and obviously he's there so he can do some things. I don't watch the Vikings every game, but Dalvin Cook was a home run hitter, and in a situation that they're in right now, in this situation, not having Justin Jefferson, not having your starter, not having Kirk Cousins, having a guy that just got into the building a week and a half ago, having a home run hitter back behind you and Dalvin Cook, one of the better backs in the league, I think that would help them right now. So I do think that's something that's not talked about a lot. I think they are missing Dalvin Cook a lot right now. They could use Dalvin Cook right now. They could use him, and I still don't understand why they let him go. But I'm not a GM, and I'm not the Vikings GM, so he's getting paid a whole lot of money to make those decisions. So
Man, I hate that I'm about to say
mm,
this, but I'm I'm taking the Saints this week. Um
Tough. Tough.
yeah, I I'm sorry, I'm not mature enough to give them no
Yeah.
compliments. So I'm gonna say more so this. I think it's gonna be a lot of hype, a lot of hype, a lot of I don't want to say emotions, but that was in a way that was an emotional win for Minnesota last week. I mean, because you got to think they were they were down big. Dobbs was struggling.
Mhm.
You know, they were turning the ball over, but they stayed in it. They found a way to claw back, and then they came out with a win, right? So that's a very, very high emotional win. You know, it may not seem like it, but given the circumstances of it, that is a very high emotional win. I think they kind of dropped back down a little bit, and it's kind of more so them giving it away more than New Orleans winning. So that's why I'm gonna go with
It's okay.
the
I
Saints.
say it. The Aints.
You know,
I say
un-
it.
unfortunately, you know, but it it is what it is. That really pained me. So I honestly, if the Vikings win, I'll be
Yeah,
happy with
no
that,
doubt.
obviously too.
No doubt.
But you know, it is what it is with that for sure, man. But it's gonna be an interesting. I mean, interesting
Mm.
week 10 for sure. Um, all the primetime games suck this week, but
Back to it, huh?
we got what Panthers Bears tonight. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't flex out the Jets and Raiders in time enough to get it flexed out. So we are forced to watch the Jets and the Raiders for Sunday night. And then on Monday night we got the Broncos and the Bills.
Oh,
Do what you want with that, right? Yeah. So the primetime games ain't looking too good this week.
no.
I don't know what took them. I don't know what took them so long to realize. Like, dang, we need to try to get that Jets Raiders game flexed out, but they didn't get it done in time. So we are forced to watch. We are forced to watch Aiden O'Connell and Zach Wilson Sunday night. I mean, Antonio Pierce had the Raiders looking good though.
He did.
Maybe,
He did. But
maybe I don't
still,
know. I
let's
don't know,
watch
man. But
425, please. 425. Let's have that game 425. Not 8:15.
man,
Not I've been waiting all day for a Sunday night. Not for this Sunday night. Not for this one. Not for this one.
not for
Other
this
ones,
one. We ain't
yeah,
waiting.
but not for this one. I ain't been waiting all day for this one. It's all good though. It's all good.
Oh man. But yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see what's going on with that. But that's the NFL there for you in week 10. Get ready to shift over here to the world of college football, and man, it's crazy right now for sure. But on the field,
Hmm.
or at least, you know, as far as rankings wise, we just had our second week of the college football playoff rankings come out. Not much changed. Pretty much the top eight stayed the same.
Hmm.
And then you had a few teams move up in the rankings, obviously, and a couple teams move down. So that's that. We Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State still right there in the top four. Washington, who's the other undefeated teams, they're at five. And you have Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Penn State and Louisville. That's that top 11 there for you, who all have one loss, and then the next two loss team we have is Oregon State at 12. Uh, I don't know if you caught most of it when we was discussing it in the sports Goonie group chat, but you know the rankings kind of ruffled a few people feathers and everything like that, and I also seen it like on social media. What I This is what I don't like about rankings, or this, you know what I'm saying, like just what really kind of grind my gears on it. It's a whole lot of just extra nitpicking for no reason when you look at it the way that it's gonna be potentially. everything is going to shake out itself on the football field. No one that I named in those rankings are really avoiding anybody else. It's not like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, Penn State's not playing Michigan this year, or uh, you know, Alabama is not going to play whoever again this year. Or, it's
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I to a certain extent it's like I get it because it's just like I saw an Alabama fan to say, well, the point of the college football playoff ranking is to say, your strength of schedule, how many wins you had, this, and this. We got three ranked wins, and Oregon only got one. How is Oregon the best one-loss team compared to us? Well, you lost to Texas. If you want to use the logic of the playoff football college football ranking and everything like that, you lost to Texas. So Texas is gonna be ahead
Mm-hmm.
of you regardless. And for somebody was like, what about you can swap Texas with Oklahoma, Texas with Oregon. Oregon's only one loss is to the team that's ranked ahead of them in Washington. Texas one loss is to a team who's already lost twice,
Mm-hmm.
which is Oklahoma. They lost to Kansas and they lost to Oklahoma State. And whatever. I mean, to me, I'm just kind of like it really don't matter because it's some we got Michigan, Penn State this week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ohio State, Michigan is going to play each other. Potentially, if Washington wins out and Oregon wins out, that's a potential rematch in the Pac-12 championship. Oregon State might have something to say about that, but
Yep.
there's that. If everybody wins out in the ACC, it's looking like it can be Louisville, Florida State for that. Maybe potentially Georgia, Alabama here for the SEC championship. So to me, it's all gonna play out. We still got 3 weeks we got 3 more games to go, plus championship weekend. This is still a lot of football left to be played. Why are we crying about these rankings?
Yeah. I missed the conversation in the sports Goonie group. I saw the after, I saw the aftermath, and I saw the messages. I did not go back through and read it because it was a lot. But I feel the same way as I did last week, man. It's the second week. It's the second week of the rankings. Everybody won. I don't know what the nitpicking was about. Um, I don't know what the nitpicking was about as far as in the group, but they are where they are, man. 5 undefeated teams. They're the top 5 teams in the nation. After that, as long as you have the one-loss teams next, to be honest with you, there's a it does matter where they're ranked. It does matter where those one-loss teams are. But like you said, you have a potential rematch between Oregon and Washington. You have Penn State playing Michigan this weekend. You have Michigan and Ohio State playing later on in the year. If everybody wins out in the SEC, you have Georgia and Alabama playing later on in the year. Florida State and Louisville you just mentioned. Like they're like you said, it's going to all get figured out. It's going to all get figured out as the season wanes. As the season winds down, it's going to get figured out. I don't see the need to to lose our minds right now. Now I can hear some of the complaining if one of those top 4 teams or top 5 teams, well, really top 4 teams were to lose and they were still in the top 4. Like if Alabama loses to Texas, and then Alabama finds their way back into the top 4, like right now, week 2 of the college football playoff ranking, and they're the number 2, number 3 team in the country. Now that's where I can understand some of the gripe there because you didn't have many other teams that are undefeated below them, 2 or 3 other undefeated teams that are below them. Why are they below Alabama in the ranking? So I could get that. But right now you got the top 5 teams. You got the top 5 teams: Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington. Whatever order you want to put them in, I really don't care. I don't care what order you want to put them in. All right, they're the top 5 teams. They're the top 5 teams because they're all undefeated. They all have ranked wins. They all have good wins. I think. I mean, once again, we talked about it last week. I think Ohio State. All right, they have some. They have 2 ranked wins, 2 impressive ones. All right, obviously the win over Oregon for Washington is a big one. Georgia has theirs. All right, Michigan has just been rumping everybody. We'll talk about them in a minute. All right. And then Florida State. So it's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. I don't know what the gripe was in the group, but look, man, it is what it is right now. To be honest, and I said this in the group after kind of I don't know, I can't remember when I jumped in, but I still don't know who the best team in the country is. I don't know. I do not know who the I have
There's
there
no
is
clear
not
cut.
a
There's no
there's
clear
not
cut
there
number
to
one
me
team.
there has not been a
Yeah.
team to separate themselves and say they are the best team in the country. It has not there hasn't been. There hasn't been. I don't think Georgia has made that statement. I definitely don't think Ohio State has made that statement. I don't think Michigan has. I don't think Florida State has. And I don't think Washington has. So it's gonna get once again, that's why we play the games. That's why you play the games to figure that part out. And they'll get figured out starting this weekend. So that's how I feel, man. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you on that for sure. There's no, you could say that maybe last season, even the year before that, and even the year before that,
Mm-hmm.
like the past few years, you can kind of tell, okay, this is the best team in college football. There's a small gap or a big gap, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's everybody else. It's not like that this year. I mean, I can't, like you said, I can't really say Ohio State because they have times where
Mm-hmm.
they had struggled. They did struggle last week a
Yep.
little bit against Rutgers. They probably shouldn't have been struggling against the Rutgers team, but they did. You can't really say Georgia because of the way that they dominated the past 2 years. They don't look the same this year. Like, they down at the half on the ropes against South Carolina. Was really, let's be real, was in a dogfight last week with Missouri. They just
Mm-hmm.
kind of pulled away, kind of late in the fourth quarter or so. So Michigan, yeah, they've been beating up on there. They've been beating up the teams, but who on their schedule has even been worthy enough to say that was a good team that they beat?
Yeah.
There's none. So I mean, there's that, and then Florida State have their lapses of where like they're up big on teams. They probably should have been beating teams more than what they should have, but they let them come back eventually. But they still end up pulling out the win. So yeah, every team definitely has their flaw. Not necessarily showing who's like the most dominant or anything like that. Man, it's just you know I just to me it's just very unnecessary, very nitpicking. If you just want to start that to want to have a debate about it, by all means, I guess I don't want to partake because I don't really see any difference in it. The only and this is what I said in there too. The only person or only fan of a team that I can see to where this may mean a little bit something to them are Texas fans, just because of where they sitting
Mm-hmm.
at 7. They don't really have any more chances of like a real big quality win. They're hanging on to that one win against Alabama. What it may and now it doesn't look like that they won't get a shot at the rematch with OU. This is looking more like Oklahoma State now, or however the rankings is looking for the Big 12 championship. So it's just kind of like they got to control. They don't control as much as the other teams do. So I can understand where maybe they come from because they need
Mm-hmm.
some help. They need a Washington or a Florida State to possibly lose. That's probably who they're looking at, to what happened. And they need teams to
Yeah.
kind of beat each other up and beat themselves out to give them a chance. So I can understand that. But anybody else, hush. Like if you why if Georgia, you sitting there too. Why are I'm seeing some Georgia fans? Man, Ohio State struggled with Rutgers, and we had a real good win against Missouri. We should be number one. Who cares? Who who cares, bruh? If you beat Ole Miss this week, you punch your ticket to Atlanta. That's the
Yeah.
first step. Forget the rankings. The first step is let's if you got divisions, you win this division, get to your conference championship game. Then the next step is to win the conference, and then you worry
Where we at?
about
Yeah.
where you ranked at or who you playing and everything like that. You got to get in that conversation first to even want to have that conversation.
You
So it's just
to the
kind of like,
conference.
it's that. And like I mentioned about, yeah, and like I said about somebody complaining about Alabama fan complaining about how they got more ranked wins than they do, than Oregon does, and it's just kind of like, okay, but they lost on the road. to the only team that they lost to who's still undefeated. You lost at home to a team that has one loss too.
Yeah.
What are we getting at? And then literally you haven't lost a conference game yet. So all you have to do is keep winning out and you punch your ticket to Atlanta to yourself. So it's just kind of like and you get a chance to get Georgia. So then if you beat them, you punch your
You
ticket
making the
in.
case
So
for
it's just
yourself.
kind of like
No.
it's all gonna get settled on the football field. That is the whole purpose and the whole point of this playoff is to get settled on the
Hmm.
football field. We ain't gotta worry about no computers, no rankings, no bots. This is all subjective. Real humans is making these selections, but they can look at what happened
Yeah.
on the football field and use that for their judgment. Simple as that. Now, one of the teams that's in this conversation for the college football playoff is the Michigan Wolverines, and obviously we've already had a conversation about them before, of the news breaking out of them, potential sign stealing,
Hmm.
illegally sign stealing, and this is man, the story is just getting juicier and juicier. It seems like every other day, bro. I mean, you got the stories coming out of potentially Ohio State and Rutgers have some part in this and everything like that, and then you got saying that Coach Jim Harbaugh is saying he's not sure about any of this stuff, and Connor Stallings, who's now no longer with the program, they relieved him of his duties. Um, Hearing about him being dressed up as a staff member at a Central Michigan game to get the signs and stuff from Michigan State, and it's just so much that's going on into this story, man. And of course, the NCAA has already trying to go into their investigation, but we know how the NCAA moves, man. It could these kids could had a started a whole
Man.
family by the time they make a decision on on what happens. So you got a lot of people out here that's really trying to say that that the in the Big Ten, coaches, staff, and just media in general, that the conference, the Big Ten commissioner, Tony Petitti is going to have to step in and do something here to give some type of discipline or something, some type of action to the Michigan football program. And then of course we've been kind of hearing rumors that Coach Harbaugh name could be in there, and too far as like with the NFL when coaches see coaching vacancies come available. But with all this going on, will teams want to even try to bring him in for that and everything like that? Um, then you got people saying that they shouldn't even be consideration here for this playoffs and everything like that. I mean, because this is a lot, bro. I mean, what if this team goes all the way and win it? It's gonna be
Yeah.
tainted. This is gonna. How do
I
what you
am
think, man?
not a fan of what's going on. We texted about this the other day. I was upset. I was upset when I texted you. We talked about it yesterday because I heard different things, um, watched different things, and something that I saw. First, they had Paul Feinbaum on the other day, and Magdal Russo and Stephen A. They were talking about it, and just kind of going over is like, hey man, you can't have this, you can't have this. And it was more to the sense of the NCAA, Big Ten, whoever the NCAA, they have to figure this out. They have to figure this out before the playoff comes, because if the playoff comes and Michigan is sitting there and they're undefeated and they win the Big Ten, they beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, and we don't know what truly happened, that there hasn't been a end to this chapter, there is going to be and asterisk. Not only that, though, you're going to leave out a team and another group of players who have not cheated, who have done what they needed to do. Maybe they have the one loss, but you're going to put in a Michigan team who is undefeated. We don't know whether or not they have been sign stealing or not. Everything is pointing to them doing this. Everything is pointing to them doing this. All the evidence showing that they are doing it. And because, like you said, because of the reputation of the NCAA, this thing could drag on forever to where Michigan could get in and they could win the whole thing. They could win a national championship. And the narrative is, well, how do we not know that they weren't still doing this, or that those other wins that helped them get to that undefeated point up until this point? Because they just fired Stalin whenever it was a couple weeks. Like they just fired him. It wasn't like this came out and they were talking about it and then they fired him immediately. They just fired him like 2 weeks ago. Like you literally just fired a dude too. So he was still working. He was still working. I don't care what capacity he was doing. He was still working 2 weeks ago. They just fired him. They just fired him. After I think it's after the Central Michigan stuff had came up. Like, this Central Michigan stuff has been out for at least 2 weeks now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a week. I might be on my time. I might be off, but they just fired him at least a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. What are we dragging our feet about? What are we doing? It looks like these dudes was cheating. They sending guys. They sending this guy to opponents' games. The man was standing on the sideline at the Central Michigan game, getting signs from Michigan State and bringing it back. And granted, our Mad Dog was getting on there, and other people would say this too. Well, they were blowing teams out. They were won anyway. Well, how do we know? How do we know? How do we know they might have lost? Michigan State is a rivalry game. How we know they might have lost? They might have lost the game. Do I think that Michigan has a better team than Michigan State? Yes. Yes, I do. But they still might have lost the game. And granted, okay, yeah, they blew them out. So what you stealing signs for then? What's the need? If you're gonna blow them out anyway, they won by 50, they won by 40. This, that, and the third. Did you really need to steal the signs then? Or was it that imperative that you needed to steal the signs to give yourself an advantage? Let's go back now. Let's go back. Ohio State have been whipping Michigan tail for the past 10 years, bro. Let's saying that Michigan doesn't have the capability of being Ohio State. Can Michigan get the same caliber of athletes as Ohio State? For sure. Not saying that's not the case. But 10 years running, they couldn't beat Ohio State. They couldn't beat Ohio State. Past 2 years, they'd have beat them. 2 years they beat them. The past 2 years they've been undefeated. The past 2 years they won the Big Ten. Before that, Harbaugh was about to get fired. He was about to get fired. He was about to get fired. If he couldn't beat Ohio State 2 years ago with those running backs, that run game that they had, and the defense, Aiden Hudson and them boys, he was going to get fired, man. He was about to lose his job. Being Ohio State that year saved that man's job. Saying out the blue, all of a sudden they can't beat Ohio State. I'm not saying that, but it is too coincidental, man. It's too coincidental that now this is coming out, and now all of a sudden can't nobody touch Michigan now. Can't nobody touch me. I mean, Michigan blowing everybody out. I mean, everybody. And we talking about them potentially being in the playoff, and this investigation not being closed. Mad Dog Russo was like, if Michigan doesn't get in, if they don't let Michigan in, whoever wins the national championship, there's going to be an asterisk on that team because they didn't have to beat Michigan. The last time I checked, Michigan ain't the two-time defending champs. Michigan ain't played in the national championship the past 2 years. Michigan been in the semifinals and lost. What asterisk does that make? What asterisk is that? What you talking about? Michigan ain't did nothing for us to be like, oh, it's an asterisk if they don't beat Michigan. If a team doesn't beat Michigan, if Georgia was to win the national championship again, and Michigan's not in it. What asterisk we talking about? That's three times. That's three back. That's three P. What are we talking about? If there's a new champion in Florida State, oh, Florida State had to go through Michigan. Why? For what reason? They had to go through them in the semifinal game. That's what Michigan's been the past 2 years. They've been able to get past that. Maybe it's because they've been able to get nowhere where the other team is practicing. Maybe they ain't be able to get on site for those other teams where they're practicing. I don't know, man. I don't want to. I don't. You're talking about suspend Harbaugh for the rest of the regular season or this. Like, man, look, man. I don't know. Like I'm so done. I'm so done with this whole thing. Like it's dragging out way too long. They took way too long to fire the dude. The Michigan president, he ain't doing nothing. The commissioner of the Big Ten, they ain't doing nothing. Lord knows the NCAA, they might not look at this until the Big Ten championship game. Like
Ever.
this has to be resolved before then. This has to be resolved before then. And I hate it for the Michigan players because they are going out there and they are playing the games and they are winning them. And they probably have no clue or had no clue this is going on. No clue that this was going on. I can guarantee you that they didn't know this was going on. All right. But you cannot, we talked about it. I've seen teams. The video that we talked about where Ohio State's at the line of scrimmage, they checking the play to look to the sideline. I've seen that. I was a signaler. I've seen teams on coaches on opposing sidelines staring at me, seeing what I'm about to signal. I've seen that. It happens in game. It happens in game. But to send somebody to a game, to multiple games, to get signs, to steal signals crossing the line. And if they were doing that, they do not belong in the playoff. I'm gonna say it right now. They do not belong in the playoff. And if they get in the playoff and this investigation is still open, it's wrong because you are holding out other teams, holding out other programs who were not a part of this, did not do this, have done it the right way, regardless of if it's one loss, two loss, whatever it is. If a one loss I don't know. If a one loss Alabama doesn't get in and they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, Alabama wins out, beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, and they don't get in because Michigan gets in, I have a problem. I have a serious problem with that. And this investigation is not closed. They got to figure this out. This is dragging on way too long. And the suspension for John Harbaugh is not to me, that ain't enough. It's 3 games left. They already gave them. That's the thing. Like they gave a self-imposed 4-game suspension already. What are we doing? This is the second time in the same year. This is the second infraction in the same year where Michigan got something going on. They already suspended their head coach 4 games and they ain't play nobody. They played me, you, Brashawn, and Bruce the first 4 weeks. Us for the first 4 weeks and suspended him. Oh, and they got these shirts talking about 4 games and free hardball and all this stuff. He did that. That stuff. That's why you did it. He did that, not anybody else. Harbaugh did that. This stuff is coming out, and we talking about potentially this dragging on, and they might have a shot to win a national championship, and they might have been stealing signs, they might have been literally cheating, and they might have a chance to win a national championship if this drags on for too long. Problem, man. This is not good. This is not good. They have to figure this out. They have to figure this out. I mean, figure out before that Ohio State Michigan game, man. Do you even want them in the Big Ten championship? Do you even want them in the Big Ten championship if they would have beat Ohio State? Because now it brings up if you wait that long, it brings up the question of they beat Ohio State, they get into the Big Ten championship game. Now it's still open. Do now you put it on the committee? Do you put them in? Because now it's not just about looking at it from a strength of schedule, undefeated, yada yada yada, all that types of conference championship. You have to look into what has been going on. Do you leave that out? Can you leave that out as like if I'm sitting in that committee, can I just ignore the fact that this has been going on? I can't. I can't. This chapter has to come to a close. In my opinion, it has to come to a close before the big. I would say right at that the game, it has to come to a close Right at the Ohio State Michigan game, they got to figure out what it is, determine what the punishment is, and lay it down. And it cannot be another John Harbaugh suspension. We've seen that already. We've seen that already. And the dude was still standing on the sideline at the Michigan State game. Whatever that was. That might I don't know if that was during the suspension or not. I don't know. It probably wasn't. All right. But we've seen that. We've seen that. No telling how long it's been going on. They ain't been undefeated. Michigan ain't been undefeated in years. They don't won 10 games before, yeah, but they ain't been undefeated in years. John Harbaugh was getting ready to lose his job. Jim Harbaugh was getting ready to lose his job. And now can nobody touch Michigan, including Ohio State, and then this comes out. 2 times in the same year, bro. 2 times. So
I mean, it's just I'm with you. Something has to get done here, just because. I mean, here's the dates, right? So say Michigan wins out. All right. We know that the Big Ten championship is going to be that first Saturday in December because that's
mm-hmm.
championship Saturday. That's December 2nd. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the Rose Bowl and the is it Cotton or
I'm not
Peach
even
Bowl? No, it's the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. It's the
okay.
Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl as the
Psych. Okay.
semifinals games. That's on. They're scheduled for New Year's Day. So we talking about a whole month. We're talking about a whole month here in between that selection Sunday, what they'll do that Sunday to set the playoffs and that game. That's gonna be a excuse my language. That's gonna be a shit show of wondering if them boys ain't out there, so whoever it is, if it
Mm-hmm.
was now if it was just Stallings or whatever, then cool, but he's gone. But that's gonna be a shit show if it's like if there was other people involved here that's doing this whole sign stealing stuff. How could you psychologically? How could you, as the other team that matches up with them, can really even focus on yourself? I mean, you got to, but it's just kind of like just somebody randomly walking around your practice or something like that that you're not familiar with or something like that that's walking around nearby or something, and it's just kind of like, hold on, and that ain't no. If I'm Florida State, I'm like, hold on, bro. I don't recognize him. Wait a minute. What he doing here? Or something like that. Who is that? Like, you just gonna be on. You gonna be on pins and needles, just wondering like what's going on, because it's just I don't know, man. I think the I'm with you. The Big Ten has to do something because it's not gonna be done by the NCAA, and they're sitting up here talking about waiting on the NCAA. Like I said, bro, the game's gonna be played. The season is gonna be damn near done by the time they want to decide something. Like, I know I kind of over exaggerated saying that the players on the team now will have a family start and everything like that. I kind of over exaggerating, but at the same time, I'm really not, because we know how the NCAA works, man. They take if forever in a day had a picture by it or a logo, it
That's
would be
it.
the NCAA. Cause they take entirely too long to get stuff done, when, like you said, in a way the evidence is kind of there, and I know what it is that they want. They, as being Michigan, and Michigan fans are probably saying, "Give us due process. Give us due process." I'm pretty sure that's the way they want to go with it. Give them due process. That's fine. But this man shouldn't. It shouldn't be going into no January, and we still don't know what's 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 all this going on. Because, like we said, if they go out here and they potentially have a chance, like legit, they do. Regardless of what's all going on, they legit have a chance here
That's
to
it.
win a national championship. And if they are the ones that's holding it up come January 9th or January 8th, whenever the championship game is going to be, uh, how can you what do you do with that? People like to make fun about the bubble. This would be
Yeah.
this would be the one. This would be the one, kind of that one, and the Astros back in, was that 2015, 2017, whatever, 2017, whatever year it was that they won it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That that's gonna be, that's up there with that. Like, what, something has to be done. I mean, I don't know, and it's kind of almost like they kind of giving it away too, kind of telling on themselves. Because then now with them bringing up, trying to put in Ohio State in it and Rutgers in it and everything like that, it's kind of like, well, okay, maybe you caught
Still
me,
like
but
saying,
I
yeah,
ain't by
they did
myself. They did it
too.
too.
So
Well, it's
you
kind
did
of
it.
like, okay, but so you did it, right? So it's like, okay, so you did it. So what else we got to talk about, right? You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
I don't know. Something has to be done. Has to be done fast, because, like, seriously, it seems like every other day, more stuff comes out, and it's just, this story is just getting more crazy and more crazy and more crazy, and honestly, it's gonna have to, like I said, it's gonna have to come down to the Big Ten, and they just can't keep sitting around here and not doing something, or Ohio State just gonna have to be like, you know what, F it, we'll get this done ourselves,
if Ohio State beats them, we ain't have to worry
and
about it.
we not worried about it. We ain't got to worry about it. But then, even still, even if it doesn't get that far, then you got to think about, all right, if it
Hmm.
comes down to that, are we vacating
Hmm.
wins? Are we, you know what I'm saying? Are we vacating wins? Are we vacating the Big Ten championship from last year and the year before that? Like, where is
Yeah,
this? Do we go from here from that? Like, are we getting to that point of that? Is it that serious with it? This is an ugly situation, and it's getting
yeah,
ugly fast.
quick.
Like, it's getting more ugly as time goes on, real quick. So I don't know, if I'm the Big Ten, I can't keep sitting around here waiting on what the NCAA gonna do, because sometimes they don't even know how to police them their own selves. You know, and I don't know if they're trying to wait to find some more stuff or what. I don't know, because that's probably the Michigan side of it. They're like, okay, if y'all can't get anything for it right now. Who's to say y'all ever gonna find anything? So I don't know. This is real ugly. This is kind of giving to me kind of what might have been going on with, like, with SMU back in the '80s, and all the different times Miami got in trouble and trying to get people to this is getting ugly the more we keep sitting here and waiting on this. So ultimately, the Big Ten is gonna have to make a decision, bro. They got to put their big boy pants on and make
That's
grown
it.
people decisions. Okay, they can't sit, because like we said, we keep sitting up here waiting on the NCAA. We ain't gonna never find out or never get
You know, answer. Yeah,
no answer to to if this is, if this really happened or not. So I don't know. They got to do something, and they being the Big Ten, they got to do something fast, like
that's it.
yesterday.
You gotta, they gotta, they gotta do it. They got
Like,
to. They got to. You can't let this drag. Can't let it drag.
yeah, yeah, they can't. And so that's what's going on right now with Michigan and that whole deal off the field. But on the field, man, we got,
Yep.
it's a week. It's a week. We got some real, last week we were kind of talking like, last week wasn't too good.
That's
This week, yeah, we got some barn burners, man. I mean, a lot of great games on tap. I think there's, if I counted them correctly, I think there's four ranked matchups, all with kind of some importance to it a little bit. I mean, Tennessee and Missouri, um, both of them are not necessarily completely out of the SEC East race, but the loser
mhm.
definitely is, and the winner kind of can still have a glimmer of hope. There's that one. Um, but then, speaking of, with the SEC, we got ninth ranked Ole Miss going over to Athens to play second ranked Georgia. Obviously, Ole Miss, if they can win, that kind of keeps them right there in the thick of it in the SEC West, and that's not completely done. And at that point, they just need some help with, um, hopefully, maybe Kentucky getting the upset over Alabama and Auburn as well, to kind of help propel them, and they win out, propel them to Atlanta. And then for Georgia, if they win, they wrap up the SEC East this weekend. and they punched their ticket to Atlanta. So interesting matchup. And Lane Kiffin just recently came in the news about some stuff too. But
Yeah.
we that'll yeah, that's crazy. But man, who you got in this one?
I'm gonna go with Georgia solely because it's in Athens. Solely because it's in Athens. If this was in Oxford, I might lean towards picking Ole Miss. Now, they are on upset alert. They are on upset alert. I don't think that I don't think the Ole Miss's defense is as strong, but the way Georgia has played is taking them some time, at least, especially in these big games, it's taking them at least a half to kind of figure out their opponent and get in the groove. I told you, I said this was last week when we talked about it, or it might be earlier this week. You can't wait a half to get in the groove with this Ole Miss team. You wait a half to get in the groove. Georgia's already they've had halftime deficits. They were down 14-3 to South Carolina. They were down against Auburn at half. You were in a tight ball game against Missouri. You cannot, all right, you cannot, and I don't know how many points it could be, but you cannot be in a deficit or you can't be down against this Ole Miss team going into halftime. They can score a lot and they can score in bunches. And if you let them hang around or you let them get up, I don't know how. I believe in Georgia's defense. I don't know how high powered that offense is to stick with them now. Getting Lad McConkey back, I mean, it seems like can nobody guard this man? Can nobody tackle this man? This man, and in the absence
Crazy,
of Brock
crazy.
Bowers, that's definitely a welcome sight for Georgia fans. All right, but can they hold up? Can they do that versus this Ole Miss offense? Are they able? Obviously, the defense getting stops lends to that. But if they're down 10, if they're down 14, if you're down double digits, can that offense generate enough big plays to get back into the football game? That's going to be the thing. They have to jump out early on this Ole Miss team. And at least if it's a half, if it's a tight game at half, if they're up, if they're whether they're up or if they're down 3 points or whatever it is, I think you're fine. If you take a full half to get them going and Ole Miss jumps out early, Georgia could be in a world of trouble. So I'm gonna pick Georgia because I think their defense, or I think their defense makes some plays, or I think their defense gets some stops in the first half. Like I said, second half, I think they make adjustments and they're able to kind of hold people at bay. But I think the first half is where that Georgia defense puts their stamp on this game and they hold Ole Miss down and keep them down throughout the whole game. And once again, like I said, it's in Athens, and that's a tough place to play right now. So I'm gonna go Georgia.
Yeah, it's been a long time since Georgia has lost a game down there in
La-
Athens.
Last
It's
time, the
been a
last time
minute for
was
sure.
South Carolina 2019.
Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
it's been a minute for sure. Uh, I'm going with Georgia as well. Um, I was more nervous going into the Missouri game last week than I am this one, just because. Uh, yes, Ole Miss can be explosive, and it's really more so with the run game. But I think Georgia will be prepared for that to make sure that they don't get those explosive runs. Albeit, Ole Miss has a very talented running back. I can't think of his name right now. I think it's
It's
Jenkins,
Jenkins.
Jerkins, something like that. I
Hmm.
know it starts with a J. Jenkins, yeah, a very, very, very talented running back for sure. But they also have time where uh, uh they just have bad lapses,
Yeah.
especially on defense. Um, last week they let Texas A and they let Texas A and M hang around a little too much, and it got a little too close for comfort. Last week they let Texas A and M hang around way too much, and if you letting Jimbo's 1977 offense still hang around with you,
Yeah.
I mean that's to me that's just that ain't good. If when you pulling away your cells and then you let them
Mm,
come back into it, because there was times where they were up double digits, 10 points, two touchdowns on Texas A&M, and they just kept coming back. Now, just like how you said with Georgia, you don't want them to keep facing those deficits and being down. You are for same thing for Ole Miss. You can't be up like that and let teams come back, because eventually that could come
mm,
back to bite you. Especially when you're playing a team like this who's been showing it now. They just know how to win. It just seems like it doesn't matter how they get it done. They just end up finding a way winning the football game, whether it be a shootout, defensive struggle, they blow them out or whatever. They find a way. So especially with the game, yeah, the game being in Athens definitely does help them a lot. If it was down in Oxford, I probably would be
mhm.
a little bit more nervous. But the fact that it's at home too, just like last week, and I was more afraid of Missouri's defense and their team more than I am with Ole Miss, just because they tend to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna roll with Georgia. Next game we got here on tap. We're gonna go out west to the Pac-12. We got 18th ranked Utah going up there to Seattle to play 5th ranked Washington. Ready to stay undefeated. Um, Utah still trying to keep their
Hmm.
Pac-12 title hopes alive. Obviously, if they win, that kind of keeps them in it. Um, but if they lose, that kind of throws them out of the Pac-12 playoff, Pac-12 championship picture for sure. And of course, Washington is just trying to stay undefeated, stay the course, um, because they got a they got a
Hmm.
tough 3 game schedule here. We got they got they got Utah this Saturday, Oregon State next Saturday, and then finish the season with the rivalry with the Apple
Hmm.
Cup between Washington State, and you can
Yeah.
never rule that out. And then a potential, and then at that point, which is crazy, either way they may have a potential rematch here with possibly Oregon
Yeah.
State or Oregon. So they're seeing it's a good chance that they may see one of those teams again. So um having that tough, well, not tough, but yeah, it was kind of tough, but that big road
Hmm.
test that they had last week against USC, now going at home, and who you got in this one between Utah
I
and
think
Washington?
last week definitely showed some showed some character, showed a side of the Washington that you needed to see, especially later on in the year, going into the conference championship season, as you get going with this playoffs and postseason talk is starting to arise. Them being able to run the football, and granted, I've said it on this show plenty of times how I feel about Lincoln Riley teams. When it comes to physicality, I don't think they handle physicality well. I don't think they play a good defense. I don't think they're able to stop the run. And Washington is known, obviously, Michael Penix Jr. is out there throwing the ball every which way he wants to throw it. But you go out there and you rush for the running back has 276 and 4 touchdowns. You show a physicality aspect to this offense and to this team that we really didn't. We might not have known that they had, to be honest, because they've been able to throw the ball all over the place and win ball games. This is going to be a test for them. Although, I've been a Cam Rising fan a couple years ago. I like this Utah team. It's been unfortunate they haven't been able to get into the playoff because they slipped up and lost 2 games and all this, that, and third. So Cam Rising won't be in a lineup, but this is still a Utah team who plays a physical brand of football. They're going to run the football and they're going to play tough, hard nosed defense. So I think this is another test for Washington to see how they hold up with that physicality. I think that I think Utah will be the closest thing to, from a physicality standpoint, that this would be the closest thing to whoever they might potentially play in the playoff, if that makes sense from a physicality standpoint. I don't know
Yeah,
if I don't know if Oregon
yeah,
State is as physical. I don't know if Washington State is as physical. I think Oregon has the potential to, but I think that Utah team is they are the Utah is the redheaded stepchild of the Pac-12. We have all these high flying offense
Yeah,
and everything like that. Utah is 12 personnel, 21 personnel, line up, run the football, play hard nosed defense. That's what they do. And so I think just from that standpoint, physicality wise, this will be the close thing when it comes to playoff teams that they'll see from that standpoint. I think it's a good test for Washington. I'm gonna pick Washington at home. I think they get it done. I think they answer the bell again because, like you said, the rest of the season is a gauntlet. I think they pass this test and they get ready for that. They can't look ahead. They can't look ahead at this point in the season. They have to go 1 week at a
yeah,
time, and I think they do. I think that coach has them
yeah,
going in the right direction. I think that leadership with Mike Penix and those guys, they're going in the right direction. I think you Washington gets it done.
yeah. I'm with you on that. They are the one team who, out of all the undefeated teams, they're the one team who can't look ahead to be like, oh, okay, all right, well, look, there we got this team, this team. Look, oh, okay, we might be in Vegas for the, and then next thing you know, boom,
It's over. Yeah, exactly.
Utah, 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 Utah,
Yeah.
35-10. You know what I'm saying? It's just they just have a
Yeah.
chance.
hmm
They can do that to you. They can do that to you for sure. So yeah, Washington is the one team that can't really afford to look ahead for sure. All the other four teams ahead of them, which is why I think they're put ahead of them, has they have a little bit more room for error, if
Yeah.
you want to say per se. Washington doesn't. Like they really can't. They have to for real run the table. I don't think they'll, because I don't think they'll. Depending on what happens though, I don't think a one loss Pac-12 team, depending on who it is, I guess could necessarily get in. Because then you're at that point you're debating possibly whoever that is winning the Pac-12 in a Texas or an Alabama, and it's just kind of who you think they gonna choose
Yeah,
there.
there's
Come on,
definitely
yeah. So you know,
a bias. We don't give the Pac-12 as much leeway as other conferences and other schools. We got to
yeah,
talk about that at some
yeah.
point.
So yeah, so they which is unfortunate, but that's just
hmm
what they got to deal with. But in the end, I do think just because, like we always talked about, the fact that they have no Cam Riser there for him, I think Michael Penix does just enough. Their offense does just enough, and Washington gets it done and they
hmm
stay undefeated. Then we got last game on tap, the biggest game of the week for sure. Um, Down there, up there in Happy Valley, we got third ranked Michigan going up against uh what is it? I think
11.
10th, 11th? No,
hmm
11th ranked Penn State. Um Very, very interesting scenarios here, right? All right. So we already know Penn
hmm
State has the one loss to Ohio State. All right, and then we know that obviously Michigan and Ohio State is still undefeated. This is the potential scenario here. If Penn State beat Michigan, that gives obviously Michigan one loss. Penn State has the one loss to Ohio State. Ohio State's still undefeated. And then if we get to the game and Michigan beats Ohio State, now that's all three of those teams with just one conference loss, all to each other. So that's Ohio State beating Penn State beating Michigan, Michigan beating Ohio State. The tiebreaker scenarios that they have going into that is the winner of the Big Ten West ends up figuring out, I guess you could say, whoever has the best record, whichever team has the best record of the three top teams in the Big Ten West, gets to go to the Big Ten championship games to represent the East. And currently, if it stands that way, it would be Penn State one and Michigan and Ohio State tied at two. That would be so funny if it ends up happening to where the Big Ten West got something to do with who goes to the to the Big Ten championship to face them because the West is so bad.
So bad.
The West is so bad, but they have a chance to ultimately they have a chance to end up having the last laugh. Like I'm over here laughing. They end up having a chance to do that if it happens that way. Now, Penn State for the past few years against everybody else in the Big Ten has had a great record. I think since 2014, 2015, a very great record. But their record combined against Michigan and Ohio State, I believe, is 4-15 or something like that. It's
Hmm.
not that great. They've beaten everybody else, but for some reason just can't consistently get over the hump of beating Ohio State, Michigan. All right, they already failed um, earlier in the season against Ohio State, albeit that was in Columbus at the Horseshoe. This one is at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley. Who you got? I mean, I know the answer, but who you got?
Be on time. Be loud.
what do you,
On third down.
what Coach Manny say? What Coach Manny say?
I got Penn
oh
State, man.
man,
I got Penn State. I got Penn
for
State.
sure.
Um, in all seriousness, it's time. It's time, James Franklin. It's time, man. I like you a lot. I like you a lot. It's time. You got to get one. Can't keep living off of the Tracy McSorley, Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin win over win over Ohio State that year and Big Ten championship that year and the Rose Bowl berth, and you can't live off of the Rose Bowl win last year. Great, great. Penn State is winning 10, 11 games every year. Great. You haven't been back to the Big Ten championship since that year, bro. That was 26, no, 20, what, 18, 2019, something like that.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
It's time, man. You gotta beat. These are the teams you gotta beat. It's almost to the same. It's almost to the same light as Jim Harbaugh. You gotta beat Ohio State. You gotta beat Ohio State. This is the team you want to win the Big Ten. You gotta beat Ohio State. If you were if LSU is another perfect example, you gotta beat
Yep.
Alabama. You want to win the SEC championship. You got to beat out. You're not getting to the SEC title game if you don't beat Alabama. No Grant. No, I mean Les Miles was winning all these games and stuff. Can't get over the hump of beating Alabama. You got to do it. You got to be able. Literally every year, the champion of the Big Ten should come out of the East every year. I mean, the West is complete garbage. I don't know what they're gonna do when USC and UCLA join, like if they're gonna get rid of divisions or whatever. But that side is trash. Let's just call it what it is. It's bad over there. All right. So one of these three teams are gonna win the Big Ten. All right. But James Franklin, it is time. You have to beat. You gotta. I'm not saying you gotta beat both of them. I mean, you need to beat both of them in the same year. That would be nice if you do that. But you got to beat one of them. All right. If you can't beat Michigan on Saturday, we there needs to be more talk of okay, is James Franklin potentially on the hot seat? I mean, you can't keep Penn State. Penn State is a top 10 team every year. It's a top 10 team every year. Top 10 ain't good enough, man. You got some stuff rolling. You got the talent there. You got to be able to beat these squads. You got to be able to beat Ohio State. You got to be able to beat Michigan because they're gonna be there. They've shown over the last couple of years they're gonna be there. One of those two teams are gonna be standing in your way, and you got to be able to beat them. So this is a big game for the Penn State program. It's a big game for James Franklin. If they can get this done, all right, he can silence a lot of critics. All right, he can silence a lot of critics, and then balls in your court. You went out, and like you said, now it's a scenario. If Michigan goes and beats Ohio State, you might have a shot to get into the title game. You might have a shot to get into the dance. You might have a shot to get into the dance. But you gotta win on Saturday. So I'm going with Penn State. All right, I'm going with Penn State. I'm not even going to mention the Goonie. All right, that mentioned me in the chat. I'm not even going to mention him. I'm going to leave him out of this. I'll talk to him on Saturday after our game. Go Catawba Indians. We got to win our game on Saturday. But I'll check that once it's over with. All right, so I don't want to mention him. But I'm going Penn State at home. I'm going Penn State at home. You got to get it done. You got to get it done.
Man, that
It's gonna
crowd
be
gonna be
wild.
rocking. It's gonna be crazy. Psh, I mean, good football weather. No football in Penn State like that. No, in November
Talking about
is gonna be wild.
a real crisp day.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Um, Part of me wants to root for James Franklin to go and get it
hmm
done, man. But I don't know.
I
I
understand,
don't
man.
know.
I get it.
I it's gotta it's I gotta see it to believe it. I gotta see it to believe it. So until then, I gotta roll with Michigan. I gotta roll with Michigan for it. And also, this is just me maybe being a little petty and everything like this. But at the same time, I kind of want. This is an ugly story going on with Michigan, but at the same, like the journalist in me is like, ooh man, if they get all the way up to the Ohio State game and they at 11-0,
Here you go, man. Here you go. You back on
and
campus right now.
they
You got
11-0,
to.
both 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 teams
Uh-huh.
11-0. We got all this going on. It's juicy, and it just ends up being this is winner take all, and what's gonna happen? Hey man, I'm here for it, but on a serious note, for sure though, it's just they Penn State has to
Mm,
show me. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of one until I see it. I can't. Nothing is giving me the confidence that they can get it done because it. What gave me more confidence is if they would have played a much better game than they did
mm-hmm.
in Columbus. If they would have, kind of strung some drives together and kind of really made it a game, I could be like, okay, I think they got a chance. A couple things just didn't fall their way. They really struggled
Yeah.
honestly, that whole entire game until like maybe the last 5 minutes or so, and they kind of drove down the field. So that just kind of bothers me a little bit that they couldn't piece
Yeah.
everything together like that in totality. Um, and going up against Michigan possesses the same problems. Uh, having to having to deal with one great player with Marvin Harrison Jr. Now you got to deal with another great player here with like Blake Corum and the rest of those guys and everything like that. And they're a very talented defense. Um, but I mean, the theatrics are going to be there for sure because all eyes are on Michigan for sure, just to see how they're going to, keep responding to all of this. Because this, I mean, like I said, this sign stealing stuff. This is going back almost now close to a month now. That we are approaching up on, and they've constantly keep on winning. But we're gonna see if this is a legit team or we gonna know like you boys been cheating or not. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So we'll see. We'll see. I think ultimately Michigan will do just enough. I mean, I think it's gonna be close, but I think Michigan will do just enough to pull it out. But I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State got the upset, and I could that way that'll just put everything to bed for that point. And then come 2 weeks later, they'll be cheering for Michigan again. They'll be like,
That's
all right,
it.
we need
That's
y'all to
it. Yeah.
take the signs this
Get
time. So
back
you know
to
what I'm
it,
saying, and
man.
everything
Get
like
back
that.
to
So
it.
right. So I mean, we'll see. But I think in the end, I'm gonna take Michigan as well. I'm gonna go ahead and take Michigan, and we'll just see how that goes, man. But I think it's gonna be a great game for sure. Man, we get ready here to wrap up another episode. This was a good one. Um, we we talked about a lot of good stuff that's going on right now out in the sports world, man. Um, Anything you want to say to the people?
Continue to do what you do. Continue to stay healthy. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Talk to your loved ones. Hit them up. Talk talk with them. Excuse me, as much as you can, and continue to strive for excellence. to continue to seek out your purpose in this life. That's it.
True, man. Same for me. Yeah. Always protect yourselves, man. Yeah. Find that balance. Check in on your people for sure. Uh, man. Happy Veterans Day to all the military guys, to all the vets, who served this country, man. We appreciate your service. Man, y'all go out there and get all the free food y'all can.
You know it's gonna be there.
For sure. Get, get all the free food y'all can for sure, man. But not enough for real, seriously, man. Shout out to all the veterans, man, who have served
Hmm.
this country, man. Those who you know that are presently still here and that serve, and those who are not here that serve, man. If you got a chance, to celebrate. If you know a veteran in your life, man, take the time out to thank them for their service, give them a phone call, everything like that. That'd be much appreciated, man, because they don't get a lot of respect sometimes that they willingly deserve for sure. So I want to just get that out there. Continue to support the podcast. Um, like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Follow us on all the social medias, man. We truly appreciate it. Love black women, cherish black women, protect black women. No means no.
No means no.
That I ain't really got much else to say behind that. I had a joke in mind, but I'm gonna save that one
Okay.
for next week. I'm
Okay.
gonna save it for next week. I'm gonna save it for next week because it'll be a little bit more
Oh, okay.
closer. So
All right.
I'm gonna save it for next week. So everything like that. Yeah,
I
you
know
you
where you're
catching my
going.
drift.
I
You
know where you're
catching yeah
going.
yeah yeah you
I
yeah
got
yeah
you.
yeah for sure for sure. But man, till the next time, this has been another episode of the Easy Money Sports Podcast.